The state's $9.25 billion budget surplus has prompted differing approaches to tax policy from the Senate, the House, and Governor Walz. Senator Ann Rest is the ranking DFL member of the Senate Tax Committee, and she joins me to offer her point of view. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with the Senate plan, which passed earlier this month on a vote of 42 to 24. The first pillar of this plan lowers the first-tier income tax rate from 5.35% to 2.8%, thereby lowering the tax obligation for all filers. With a budget surplus, does it make sense to make an adjustment like this that would benefit all taxpayers?
I think one of the major flaws in that approach is that it is an ongoing tax reduction. It's $2 billion every single year. It's not a one-time thing that recognizes the challenges of the pandemic, that represents the challenges of the war in Ukraine, with now an 8% inflation that we are seeing being reported. Mortgage rates are now up at 5%. To give a massive permanent tax cut to everyone, including the very, very wealthy. When the Republican plan came out, they said this is for everyone. Well, you know what? The very rich don't need this tax cut. Middle income, lower income folks, they need money right now, which is what the governor has proposed. And we need to look at what things are worrying Minnesota families. Certainly high prices for heating and the high price of taking care of their children while they go to work. And DFL plans have come up with increases in child care credits and in looking at property tax implications and also parents paying for extra programs for their kids to get the education credit for. Those are the permanent ones that we should be looking at, and not a permanent tax cut, which we've seen in the past has resulted in the next several years, an increase in property taxes for homeowners in particular and renters.
Well, I think this leads in then, because on the Senate floor, you offered an amendment that would include Governor Walz's plan, which rather than an ongoing tax cut is just one-time rebate checks of $500 for individuals and $1,000 for couples. You're basically outlining why you think just one-time money is better than ongoing money, but can you say a little bit more about that?
Sure. People have dismissed what $500 means to a single person, or what $1,000 means to a couple with a couple of kids. Well, it means a whole month worth of groceries at a time when the prices of groceries are skyrocketing. They are skyrocketing. They need the help now, not this little bit by little bit by little bit that is being promised for the next 5 years. They need it now. And so the $2 billion in the one-time rebates, or direct payments, I call them, to get away from nicknames for things, is what I think Minnesotan families want, they need, and we're seeing some polling that is indicating that people would be just fine getting these $500 or $1,000 checks within the next several months, rather than decreases in their withholding, for example, from their paychecks.
I'd like to talk about the second pillar of the Senate tax proposal, because it would remove all taxes on Social Security income. And that's something that people have been talking about for quite a few years now. In light of the surplus, is it time for Minnesota to become a little bit friendlier to retirees?
Well, there are all kinds of retirees, of course, and many of them do receive Social Security. In Minnesota, most Social Security recipients don't pay any tax on their benefits. No one pays tax on 15% of their of their Social Security payments, which is what the federal government allows. But in recent years, we have started to, in a sense, inflation adjust what we are allowing to be subtracted from the taxable part of your of Social Security payments. And we believe that we should continue on that track. And it's the same thing with the permanent income tax cut. There are many Social Security recipients whose income well exceeds $100,000. They're not the ones that are bothered by an 8% increase in inflation when they only got 5.9% increase, a hefty increase in their benefits for this year. We need to be looking more at those middle income, fixed income Social Security recipients, not those that have income from any other number of places that support a very comfortable lifestyle. So our plan does allow that. Gradual increase in the subtraction, but not the permanent wiping out of all taxes on Social Security benefits at this time. Will we get there at some point? I think so.
Well, and so in several of your answers, you've alluded to what the House is proposing. So I would like to just touch on the House tax bill briefly, which in terms of costing, it costs $5 billion less than the Senate's in terms of the next 3 years' budget implications. It is a targeted approach, as you have been talking about. Some of those targets include income tax rebates for families with children, increasing the child and dependent care tax credit, and then a modified Social Security subtraction. So these more targeted approaches, what is the benefit?
Well, I believe that we're going to see stark contrasts that I hope are going to bring us together in meaningful compromises, and it's also going to reveal what the priorities of the two major parties are, and we're going to see an education bill that only spends $33 million, $33 million, but we're going to see hundreds of millions of dollars in tax cuts for the very wealthy from the Republicans. And to me, those are upside down. And we should recognize the investment that, particularly during the effects of the pandemic, that we need to bring to Minnesota families. And it is not a bad thing to leave some money on the bottom line if we go into a major recession, if we get more involved in the war in Ukraine, and if inflation goes above 8%. It has in the past. So we should learn from the past and not condemn ourselves to repeat it.
So in a sense, this tax policy debate in a time of surplus is really an example of looking at the philosophy of the two parties and then the priorities of the people of Minnesota. We have a significant chunk of change. How do we want to spend it? Is that true?
I think that's very accurate. I think both parties want good things for Minnesotans, but we have vastly different ways of asserting those priorities for Minnesotans and the values that we bring to them to get a good result. And I'm confident, actually, that we will get there.
Senator Ann Rest, I want to thank you so much.
You're welcome.